Hello and welcome back to Live from Paris. It's time now for a look at today's business news with William Edwards, who joins me now. Hello, William.
Hi, Laura.
So last week, quite a roller coaster one for the financial markets. How are things opening up this Monday?
Well, it seems to be a pretty similar story, actually, so far on the Asian markets, despite some rather good news in Japan, with the yen being at its lowest since 2010. Good for exporters, you'd think. And also Nissan and Toyota announcing record sales in 2012. You can see the Nikkei is still down 0.9% there. And it did earlier, actually, in the session, hit its highest point since April 2010. That seems to be due mainly to profit-taking, investors making the most of the gains in recent days. Also concerns that other company earnings later in the week could be lower than anticipated. Other Asian markets, though, the Hang Seng and the Shanghai Composite in particular, they are doing rather well, off news that Chinese industrial profits were up 17% in December on the year before.
Okay, and meanwhile, over on the US markets, a bit of a change at the top.
Yes, Apple is no longer the most profitable, the biggest company on the US stock markets. ExxonMobil, in fact, has retaken that position. That's after disappointing earnings from Apple. It announced record sales and record profits, but that wasn't quite as much as what the markets were expecting. So it has lost over a third of its value since it hit its peak last year.
Okay, well, we've already been hearing in the news bulletin about the unrest in Egypt over the weekend. That's after deadly rioting in 3 cities there, and a state of emergency has now been put in place. And this all comes exactly 2 years on from the revolution that overthrew Hosni Mubarak. It's clear that the country faces a myriad of challenges after that seismic change, especially in terms of its economy, as Caterina Vitozzi now reports.
They called for bread, freedom and social justice. But 2 years since the revolution, protesters' demands remain unfulfilled and they're back on the streets.
Unemployment's gone up, prices are higher, and we've heard inflation and tax are going up too.
A quarter of Egypt's 80 million people survive on less than €2 a day. It's getting hard to put food on the table, yet according to the country's prime minister, there is a solution.
I want to tell those people in the Tahrir Square right now, you know, after you air out your voice and your statements, please go back to work. Work hard for yourself, for your people, for your family, because that's the only way to achieve the aspiration of the Egyptian revolution.
But jobs are scarce. 1 in 4 under 25s can't find work. The vital tourism industry is still suffering, and with the Egyptian pound fast in decline, few options remain for Islamist President Mohamed Morsi, only a €4 billion rescue plan from the IMF.
It's the only way out to attract investments, as well as to bring more preferential loans that are more lucrative, with longer grace period and less interest, as well as a couple of $1 billion that are grants that are waiting for the IMF signature.
But fiscal reforms will be demanded in return. Impending austerity means that life is set to get even harder for Egypt's poor and middle class.
Caterina Vitozzi there. Well, William, another country that's undergoing significant change at the moment is Burma, and it's just got quite a boost to its economy.
That's right. A significant portion of its debts are going to be forgiven, going to be wiped out, partly by the Paris Club of Nations. That is 19 of the world's biggest creditors. They're going to forgive around $2 billion worth of debt, as well as Japan, which itself is cancelling $6 billion on its own. And Norway has also come to a separate deal, around $500 million. Burma stopped servicing its debt in the 1980s. Meanwhile, the Asia Development Bank and the World Bank, between them, they are going to lend Burma nearly $1 billion. That's after Japan helped the company get out of arrears with those banks.
Okay, and this is all part of a bigger picture, isn't it, of the changes going on in Burma?
It is indeed, opening up both politically as well as economically. Many multinationals are now coming back. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, of course, leading the vanguard. Suzuki, HTC phones, they've all announced plans to start operations again in the country, which really was locked down for much of the last 30 years. And the World Bank estimates it's now going to grow by 6% this year. But they do say that a lot of investment is going to be needed because it is so far behind on infrastructure, just basic things like roads, water and electricity. So a lot of money is going to have to be pumped into that as well.
Okay, well, we're going to move now to the UK because Starbucks, the coffee chain, is in hot water still.
Yes, now along with other big multinational companies such as Google and Amazon, Starbucks was the focus of tax issues recently. Protesters saying, well, a lot of people saying that over the last 3 years it's paid zero tax in the UK, and that's despite sales of nearly €500 million in 2011. Last week, David Cameron was talking about his plans for leading the G8 later this year, and he said companies need to wake up and smell the coffee, and well, you can guess who that was taken as an allusion to. On Friday, Starbucks UK Managing Director was at Downing Street, he says, for a long-planned meeting, but the Sunday Telegraph, meanwhile, has been reporting that the coffee firm is considering reducing investment in the UK, saying that this is rather unhelpful, let's talk about their tax affairs.
OK, well, here in France now, one of the best things about living here is the traditional long business lunch, but it seems that its popularity has fallen since the beginning of the financial crisis. So some restaurants are trying to get their lunchtime customers back by offering 3 courses on a tight budget. Take a look.
In Paris, a 3-course meal will set you back on average €50 per person. Yet with diners now counting every centime, this restaurant's launched a set menu that'll sate the appetite but not break the bank. A starter, main, cheese and pud, all for €9.50.
In the middle of Paris, in an area like this, which is quite touristy and expensive, it's unbeatable.
This crisis menu was the idea of restaurant owner Alain Fontaine. Once costs and tax have been deducted, he only makes 45 cents profit on each set menu. But his restaurant is open 7 days a week and is full for lunch and dinner, making it a money-earning option in the end.
Around here, there's lots of Chinese and Indian restaurants that offer low-cost set menus. They're really popular. So, with my chef, we worked out how we could attract these customers without compromising our style of classic, homemade French cuisine.
Cooking clever's no longer an option. 2 in 3 French people say they can't afford to eat out, so to lure them into restaurants, they have to be offered better value for money. Some restaurateurs are cutting down on expensive flourishes, others buy in bulk and at discount prices, but all with the same aim: to avoid a crisis in their kitchen.
Well, is it worth eating, William Edwards? You'll have to go down and maybe sample it sometime to see. But finally, one Frenchman has found quite a novel way to pay his taxes. Tell us more.
Yes, this chap called Patrick Fenelon, he had a bit of a run-in with the tax authorities 4 years ago. So when he got his latest bill, he decided to pay in coppers, up to worth 5 centimes, and he finally scraped together his €429 bill, and it weighed just under 50 kilograms in coins. For those who don't use metric, I myself weigh around 75 kilograms, so I can tell you.
What an admission.
That is quite a lot of coins. And apparently, what I really love is that apparently the local villagers, they all thought it was such a laugh that they helped him get together these coins. That's how he managed to collect 50 kilos worth of 1 cent coins, and he delivered it on Thursday. Apparently the tax officials, poor tax officials, I mean, you have to feel a bit sorry for them, they're still counting it.
Just to check that it was all there. I imagine all the villagers had to help him deliver it to the office as well, 50 kilograms worth. Thank you very much indeed, William, for that look at today's business stories. It's time now for the international weather, and then Stuart Norfolk will be back with more news headlines, so do stay with us for that. Bye for now.